Hey everybody, I am Douglas and I run an AI automations agency called Razor. We are super passionate about saving time and really letting you get back to the high value tasks that you should be doing rather than the mundane, tedious stuff. And so we think technology should work for you, not the other way around. So we're going to create some cool automations together. And in this case, this video, what we're going to cover is how to take a meeting transcript and send it through AI to create a really beautiful customized meeting report that also includes an automatically created draft in your email draft folder so you can send it to whoever you want to share that transcript with. So it's going to be the creating of a document that you can actually share. And so it's very easy. You can do this manually in ChatGPT, but the creation of the document, the sending of the draft email is a nice little additional benefit. So we're going to be using a tool called make.com. So this is Make, and what it looks like, just so you know, is it basically connects platforms. It's like the duct tape of the internet. It's been around forever. It's like a Zapier. I prefer this one because it's kind of fun to visually, it's more fun to work with, but both work. It's really cool. And so you can explore it by going into the products, apps, and services here. And these are all the types of apps that can connect, and there's thousands. And so you can actually search for, and this is always a great starting place, you can search for apps, for example, Trello, and see kind of what you can do with it. And there's these modules that I'm going to show you how these modules are connected. And you have triggers, things that once something happens, it triggers actions. And so you can connect these with all sorts of other platforms. So connect any app with Trello, for example. And it even has some little templated workflows, which I think is really, really nice. So you can always start there and at least explore this to get an idea of what's possible. So let's log in. So what I'm going to do is first of all show you what we're going to build from my own account, and then we're going to start fresh so we can completely set you up. So first of all, when you load up your make.com account, on the left-hand side you'll see scenarios and connections and these other things. Those are the main ones that you're going to use. Connections is where you connect your accounts, but you can also connect your accounts right when you're building the scenario. And so scenarios are really what we're going to be building. I've got a little folder for PMI here, and here's basically what it looks like. So we're going to take a Jot form. We're going to actually get a prompt, and I'll show you why that's powerful. We're going to process it through OpenAI's API. We're going to create a Google document out of it, make it shareable, and then we're going to create a draft. So we're going to do it from scratch just so you can completely see how I set this up. So I've created a blank folder here where we're going to put all our automations. So first of all, when you come in here, this is what it's going to look like. It's all just, new account, but here's going to be your limits. And like I say, it's a free plan, so it's really awesome to get started with Make. So what we'll do is create a new scenario, and we'll give it a name just so we have an idea of what we're calling it here. And so the first thing we're going to do is create a Jotform form. Okay, so let's go over to Jotform first and see what we've got here when we log in, and we'll see the forms that we already have. And so I've actually created already this form. Let's take a look at it.
Hey project managers, forms are a great way to collect data, but your organization may only allow you to use internal tools for data collection due to privacy and security standards. Before implementing a workflow like this, make sure you're permitted to use these tools and integrations at your organization.
And you can see I've only got just a few fields here. It's really simple. And the way you add these fields is by adding an element on this side. And you can drag things in. So I had actually put a paragraph. That's what this is. But I already have it here, so I'm just going to delete it. And this just is explaining the value prop. So for PMs that lead and attend many meetings per day across multiple projects and cross-functional teams, this form will run a raw transcript through AI, summarize it with a custom prompt, make a clean Google document, create a draft email for the PM to send to meeting attendees and stakeholders. Pretty simple. And all it has is the meeting title, which is just a short text dragged over here, a project name, and then a larger long text that I dragged in here, and then that is ready to go. So that's ready to have the full transcript pasted in. Wherever you get it from, you can get it from Grain or Otter or Read or Fathom or Zoom or Google Meet. So you'll need that, but we'll get to that in a little bit. So once that's ready to go, all you need to do is publish the form, and then it's going to give you actually a link. You can copy that link we can open that up, and there is our brand new form. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is connect it to our scenario. So in here, let's just go over the interface in make.com pretty quick. On the left-hand side, I've already explained briefly, you're not going to need most of these things, but the connections is where you might sometimes need to go to renew or restore a connection. And the rest of this stuff, don't worry about too much. Let's talk about this real quickly. You can save your modules. You can send settings, you're not going to need too much. Notes, you're not going to need too much. This aligns things often. If things are a little bit out of whack, you'll see in a little bit. And then here, you can export the current state of any scenario and import it. So if you're like worried that you're going to mess something up, you can always export it and then re-import it. But also previous versions will have, we haven't saved anything here yet, but that will have, like say yesterday it was working and today you messed it up. That can be useful. The rest is, this is going to be how you turn it on. And this is if you want to actually have it run on a schedule, you can do that. In our case, we're going to want to have it run as soon as a JOP form gets created. And so you've got this, this whole canvas here to work with. You can click and drag, and you can press the plus button when you want to get started. And so in our case, we're going to start with a JOP form. So let's make this happen. We're going to see all of these and watch for submissions. So that's what we want. So we click on that. We're going to need to create a webhook, and that allows us to connect JOP form with make.com. So let's see how we would do this. When we put that in there, we probably want to name it something like my JOP form submission watcher webhook. That's fine. And we're going to create, say, click, create a connection. Okay, look, we need to find what's called an API key. So let's go over to JOP form and see where that is really quickly. Go back to here. Well, you just click on your profile guy. You go into your settings. You can click on API, and here you're going to, I'd already created one here, so I can actually just copy and paste that, but you'll create a new key, which is kind of nice. So over here, back in make.com, we can click on that, enter that, and I think we're going to have success, okay? So we've got a team now, and I think probably most of the time you won't have a team assigned, so that works like that. And then form, you can click on the PMI meeting summarizer. I think we named it this one, PMI meeting summarizer. Yeah, so it's this one. Maybe I'd created a second one. So that's one. You choose your form, and guess what? We're ready to go. So how do we test this? Well, we can say OK, and we can right-click on the module and say run this module only. It's now just going to wait for a submission. So here's what we've got. Let's call it I don't know, PMI course meeting, and the project name is module 1, and the meeting transcript. So I have a few dummy transcripts. Like I say, you can get this from wherever you like. In this case, we just have a few dummy ones here that we can copy and then paste into our transcriber here. So let's take a look. Perfect, it worked. Now if we go back to make, look, it's gone green, and it's successfully gotten an output. So we're going to look at that in a second, but for now we know it's connected. All right, so the next thing we're going to want to do is take that transcript, run it through AI to clean it up and to deliver us a very customized report from the meeting. So next thing we're going to do is connect OpenAI's API. And so that's different than ChatGPT, where you copy and paste things manually. When you're using an API, it all happens in the back end. And there's lots of benefits to that. First of all, we're going to add a little bit of money to our account. This doesn't use your ChatGPT subscription. It uses a very tiny amount of cash that we're going to put into our account. So when we click on that, we're going to say, actually what we want is to create a completion, not message an assistant. That's a little more complicated. We're going to create a completion. And here it's going to say, oh, we need an account. So we're going to create an account, and we're faced with these two things. So this is going to be I'm going to call this my Pro API Connect. This is just so how you can find it. In case you have multiple connections in the future, which we might see as we move through this, it's helpful to have it named properly. When this is bold, it means that's what you need. So I'm going to go into openai.com, into products and API login. Okay. And so this is kind of the dashboard. Don't worry, it's kind of complicated, but it's all right. We're going to just really do something pretty simple, and that is go into our dashboard, into billing, we're going to add a little bit of money. So you add your credit card, you can add $5. It's going to take you a very far away, and it will be really useful for a lot of things. So once you've got a little bit of money in there, we've got our other tab that we want, which is our playground, I believe. And you can go in here and you can go over to, is that right? No, it's dashboard. Oh, it's dashboard, I'm sorry. And then API keys. All right, and so we're going to create a new secret key, and we're going to name this one PMI make.com connection, or API. Okay, and it's just going to default project is fine, permissions all is fine. So we save that, we copy it, we go back to our make.com scenario. Let's see if this works. Great. So what you're faced with is now the option to create a chat completion, which is what we're going to want. The model is the AI model, or LLM, that we're going to use. We usually just want to use the most modern, which in this case is the 4.0. These are new. Also, they're kind of just the beginnings of these, so I would recommend this more established 4.0 model. Literally since the last time I logged in, they're offering this. They're beginning to roll out the next one. It's actually a little bit more expensive to use these tokens, so I think just going with 4.0 is going to be a good idea. And max tokens is how much money basically you want used for this automation. But again, it's not going to be a big deal, even if it's a giant transcript. So I just put in 0, and that's the as many as it can use. I guess I'll show you a little bit how we could make this work as is, but we're going to want to do another little trick. So the first thing that pops up is this, when you click on messages, is this role and the content. This is when you're telling the system how to act. Anyway, so we're going to say you're an expert project manager tasked with creating accurate meeting notes, takeaways, and assigning tasks. Okay, great. And I'll fix that. Okay, so we've trained now the AI to how to act. Now we can be a user, and that is the second message here. And this is where we could say something like, I want you to summarize the following meeting. Okay, now this is a very basic prompt, and we're going to improve this in a second. But just to give you the basics, this is what we can do. Now, what's been popping up here on the left-hand side every time we click? Well, it's the results from every previous module in the scenario. So as we build this scenario, we're going to be able to refer back to the responses from previous modules. And so when I click on that, I can scroll down here and see, oh, here's the meeting transcript. And you can see it's on the left-hand side, it's pulsing. That means we're definitely using the right form, or right modules data. Great, so that is that. At the very least, that is going to produce something, and I can see if I wanted to run that manually, I could, like this. It's going to ask for the meeting transcript, and here I can copy and paste that. There we go. And we can run it, and it's going to take a second. And what it's doing now in the back end is it's reviewing that transcript, and it is going to give us some information back. And so just so you know, it's a little bit kind of not immediately clear where that information is, but when you click on this, it shows it successfully ran. You're going to see the output results here, and if you click on choices, once you know where the response is from OpenAI, it's easy. It's always in the same place, but just so you know, it's in choices. You click on one, and you click on message, and then content. So it's a little bit in there. So here's the basics it gave us, which is great, but here's the deal. Sometimes you want to make it, and that's what we're working on today, highly customized, right? It's a kind of little box to play around in right here. And sometimes I want to tweak my prompt really easily without having to go into make.com. So what I created was a really fun summarize, or basically I created a better prompt and I put it in Google Documents. I want it to live in Google Documents. That way, if I want to edit the prompt, I can just edit the Google document. How cool is that? So let's take a look at how we do that. So you can drag, like I said, now we can start to see how this moves. If you hold down, if you're on a Mac, Command, and then 2 fingers on your mouse, you can actually move it around. You can click and drag, which is kind of nice. You'll start to see. Another thing that I would recommend is that you get familiar with naming these things. So in this case, I'm going to say, when I right-click, you can say rename process meeting. For something this short, it's not much of a problem, but as you make longer scenarios, you do want to keep in mind which ones are which, especially once you get a dozen or 2 dozen or more. But at any point, I can do this. I can find this little branch and I can right click on it and say add a module. And then we're going to do a Google Docs, okay? So Google Docs, get contents of a document. And it's going to want me to create a connection to access that. So it's going to be, and this works, I think, with all types of Google accounts. Email is the one that you really need to either have Microsoft Outlook or Google Workspace or your own IMAP or account. And so that's kind of like what you would get from your hosting or email provider. If you use Mail app or things like that, sometimes you have to enter these like inputs. I'll show you in a second, but I'll show you when I do the email module. But in this case, we're going to say, I'm going to say actually this is, I'm going to use hello at Razor's Google connection and sign in with Google. And I get to choose one of my myriad accounts here, and we're going to use my main admin account.
I know you're excited to use these third-party apps, but before connecting them to your work accounts, we need to do our due diligence. First, consult your IT department, review your organization's privacy policies, and regularly review and remove unused app connections. Remember, as a project manager, you're not just responsible for timelines and deliverables, you're also a guardian of sensitive project data. When in doubt, always err on the side of caution. Now back to Douglas.
With a Razor, and we connect it, and it's this simple. We have got our connection. Fantastic. All right, so now what are our options? Okay, a couple of things. One easy way is to click on and find the file through all of your different documents. It's kind of a pain. So I don't do it that way. The other way to do it is to map it. And this is where you can either, if you've previously used a Google Doc, you could find the document ID. In our case, we haven't used it yet, so we need to find it. Well, I handily have it open here. And you can see this prompt is way more involved than just summarize the meeting. And so again, that's a lot to put in that little box, and it's a pain to, copy and paste it over, or you want to make changes, open up make, pain. So look, what we're going to do is copy it. We're going to get this prompt from Google Docs. So what does that mean? Well, first of all, you're going to need this document ID, and it's the string of letters and numbers that sits between the two dashes. Keep in mind, sometimes it actually has a dash in it, so if you try to select it, it doesn't select the whole thing. You need that whole thing. Okay, so we're going to come back in here. I'm going to put just that document ID right in there. Get prompt. See what I'm saying? And then we're going to run this module only. And because it's got its document ID right in there, we don't even have to put anything in. And look at this. We have the text content, and there is our prompt, so we know it's working right. Well, now how do we connect that? Well, AI module here. Rather than this text, we can say this. You go, and now you'll see, and by the way, once these get long over here, you can always click claps, and in this case, you can open that, and here is that text content. So look at that. We've got that, and I'm going to put a colon just because, and then I'll put this, meeting transcript in quotation marks. I don't even think it matters. I think it would get it anyway, but that's kind of what we're going to do. So now you understand it is pulsing over here. So that represents that text content of the document, that prompt, and then is pulsing. It represents the meeting transcript that was sent through the form. Okay, great. So we're doing awesomely here. The next thing that we're going to do is create a Google document out of it. And what's nice here is now we're going to say create a document. It already remembers my account, which is nice. Okay, and so what we could do here is just call this meeting summarize meeting, or meeting summary. Okay, it could be as simple as that, but sometimes, if you're doing a lot of these, you might want the name of the summary of what meeting it was, right? So you keep things in track. Well, what's cool is you can come down to, again, the Jot form, and do you remember that we had the meeting title and also the, let's see, form title, it's another one, and we have the project name. So we can use any of those. These are all other ones you don't really need. But I would say meeting summarizer, and then I would probably say project name. So we could click on just project name, and you see it's right there, dash meeting title. great. And so now that's going to be the name of the document. And here, remember what we're going to do is get the results, which is this, and then we go to the message, and then we go to content. Okay? And that is that. So, and then, oh, where are we going to put it? So this is good to know. Well, I have a nice new Google folder. We just want our blank folder so we can see the test when it pops up. Okay, so similarly, we need the folder ID. Well, it's also that same string there. In this case, it's just the last chunk. And now we take that over, and we, again, choose, here we choose map, and we just put that document right there. Okay, and we can call this, create new doc. I mean, I guess that's what it says below it, but just, again, best practices. All right, wonderful. So before we share this, we're going to need to make it shareable. Because if it's in your Google account and then you send an email, if it's not shareable, no one's going to see it. So we're going to do something here with Google Drive. And so we're going to say Google Drive. And so we're going to look, I see all these great options. It really can give you great ideas. In our case, we're just going to get a share link. And even though we've already connected our Google, we sort of need to connect every app separately. So again, I'm going to say that this is my Razor Google restricted connection. And it's simple again as a few clicks away. All right, so it's created this connection, and now we need to choose which file we want to make shareable. So my drive, we're going to select the file. Well, look at this. We can go back. Remember, and this is where it's helpful that like maybe you've named things. You're like, don't mix stuff up. Well, we created this doc. Remember here. And by the way, like if we zoom out, I want to show you that. Yeah, here we go. We can see that the right one is pulsing. And then you're going to actually use the document ID. It calls it file ID, but it calls it file ID because sometimes you're making it a folder shareable. So it's not just a document. So file could be a document or a folder. And then here we want to say anybody can read. So anyone can read. If you wanted to invite just a specific person, you could do that too with a specific user email address. In our case, anybody who has the link, we want to be able to see it, and we want allow file discovery off, which it is by default. Okay, so this is make shareable. And then the last thing that we're going to do is create an email, a draft email. So here we're going to choose email app and email, and we're going to create a draft. So in my case, I'm going to use, it's nice, it's okay, it's already kept that in there, which is cool. I'm going to click on that. Oh, it needs to still update the connection. I guess we still need to do it one more time. And here we go. Boom. It's ready to go. So folder, we can actually, we can use the click to find because I'm just going to choose the drafts folder. And then the recipient, it actually needs a recipient, but it won't, maybe you can just add your people in here if you wanted to. It might be a bit more of a pain. So what I just generally do is I'll say like, okay, well, I'll just put it to myself for now. And then once it's in my drafts folder and I go to review it, I can put whoever I want to send it to manually. Okay, so if we wanted to, what we could do here is go back to the create new document because we had this little title, and hopefully it lets me copy and paste here. So I just selected all of that and then come back here, and I'm going to just put that in the subject. Okay, great. So it might be a long subject line, but whatever, that's fine. And then HTML content, we're going to try to, in fact, because I have in my prompt here, return your, and you'll get the link to this, return your final response as well-formatted HTML. So hopefully that's going to be enough to make a good looking document, and then maybe we can even add that in the email. We'll see. Sometimes it's a little bit finicky, but at the very least, we're going to want to have this say something. So now because it's HTML and I want to have the email have a few line breaks to it, I guess I'll just show you how this works. The only HTML code you need to know is this BR, and that's a line break. So every time I want a line break, I'll put one of those, and I'll say like, here's the summary for the, and then here I can do similarly something like that. Here's the meeting summary for that. Okay, and so then I'll put another break. I'll put another Oh, and then here I can put the share link actually. And there it is. If again, remember this is just pops up. Share link. See how easy this is? I'll put another line break after that. Maybe I'll give it another space. And then I shall put, and this is just, if you want, you could say, I would say sometimes you could, if you wanted to put the response in the email, but I think just clicking over to the Google Document is probably a better idea. So the other thing that you might need here, web content link, I think that's a little bit different. So I think just the share link is fine. And then so you could say, thanks, take a look and make any comments or whatever you want, right? And then you could say, let's say the Razor team. Okay, great. So we've now going to have a draft created. These are all other things that you could do. There's also often show advanced settings down here. Sometimes you can add, in this case, there's BCC and things. And most modules have advanced settings. Sometimes it's just fun to explore what else is possible. So we do that, and we are now ready to go. And by the way, this is a good place to, and here's what I was going to talk about. These are all out of whack, so if you've got a really big, crazy scenario, you can always click auto align, which is nice. You can also click save. And now it is time to turn this on. And so we're going to hope that this works. But guess what? Sometimes it doesn't. And if it doesn't, we're going to be able to troubleshoot it. But here we go. And now we're going to go back so we can look at the diagram like this, because then we're going to be able to see it running, which is going to be really fun. So while that's loading, I'm going to go to the form, which is here. So let's see if the module is ready to go. Yep. And so what we're going to do now, and this is where it gets really fun, is we're going to watch it work. So at least as much as possible. We're not going to see the AI working on the back end, but we're going to see the module working. So we've got our title, we've got our project name, and we've got the transcript. Well, guess what? Let's press submit. And we come back here. Look, it's already started processing. How satisfying is that? The job form is working. It got the prompt. Remember now, it is taking the prompt and the meeting transcript. It just finished. It's creating a new Google document. It made it shareable. And now it's going to our email. So, seems like it worked. Great. And so here it is in our draft folder. Click on it, and here is the subject line. And here, if you have a really long meeting, that might be a long subject line, but that worked just fine. And then here's the email, here's the link, and you can click right on this, and let's take a look at the results. How nice. So you can look at it like this, or you can click on open, and what I would probably recommend is now you review it. OpenAI sometimes adds these funny little things, but what's nice is when you come through, you can delete that, you can look through, you can pretty it up, you can see if there's anything that's missing, you can remove the bottom 3 little weird things, and then it's ready to send to the team. So once you've reviewed it, you just come in here, you enter whoever you need to send it to, and boom, you're ready. And you can do so much with this automation. You can, if you think about it, you could come back in here. First of all, you can use any type of form platform. If you're using Microsoft 365, you can integrate that. If you prefer to use Claude from Anthropic, which is another big AI platform because you like the way it writes better, you can integrate Claude instead. And then for your email, like I said, not only can you use Google, but you could add also a Microsoft or the IMAP settings. And this is where you probably, unless you're any one of these like Zoho, you can actually, you're going to need to add this. And sometimes you need to talk to your hosting email provider and figure out how to log in with these few things. But that's above and beyond this module. We're not going to worry about it. But now you can start to see the power. And so one of the things that was really useful here was this, because now anytime I say want to add one more question to my meeting summarizers, I can just come in here and add another bullet point, right? And so that's really nice. If you're like, well, actually I need to start reporting on this thing in our follow-up summaries, you can just come in there and add it. So that's basically it. I think that is a really good start for Make.com. And there's a whole bunch of other things that we could play around with task managers, with all sorts of inputs and outputs. Actions can be really anything you could, because this is the action, remember, and this is the trigger, and these are the actions. So that trigger could be anything, and you can explore that on Make.com. The trigger could be, for example, a file gets dropped into a Google Drive folder, or like we did today, a form gets filled out. It can do things like even an email gets received from a certain email address. You could make the trigger pretty much anything that you can imagine that already is built into Make.com. And if you use Zapier, although it's not quite as pretty and fun as an interface as Make.com, it's got even more connections. So if you don't find necessarily your connections in Make.com, you can head over to Zapier and see if the modules are built in. If you really want to use Make.com and you run into a roadblock, well, the nice thing is it uses something called APIs, and that allows you to, even if it doesn't have a built-in module, it allows you to connect to an API from maybe a different app that you might use that offers them. So I hope that was as fun for you as it was for me. I think that this opens the door for a lot of different things. Once you have these different types of meetings, they might have a different form each time. And so what you would need to do is basically save that link to one form or another form. And then for different types of meetings, you could have these different automations. So I hope that was exciting for you guys, and I hope it was helpful, and I hope this saves you some time and really gets you out of some of the boring, tedious work, especially if you're like me, you have a bunch of these meetings and it's really nice to quickly be able to process them. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.